Welcome to the Pulse of Jonesboro. I'm Jeremy Terrell, and I'm your host. And today we are here with Doug Brimhall. And Doug is running for, and I'm going to get it right here, so Circuit Court Judge, District 2, Division 4. And we are going to get to know Doug a little bit. He's currently serving in that position. He does have an opponent, and we just wanted to take the opportunity to really get to know him and let him talk about what he's been doing and let you guys decide on your vote. I think this is super important. You guys know me. I'm always about get out the vote. But I wanted to make sure he had the opportunity to come on, introduce himself, and make sure you guys knew who Doug is. So, Doug, appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about yourself, maybe family, and then tell us why you got into being the judge.
Well, how much time do we have?
You just keep going, brother.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy. My name is Doug Brimhall. I'm currently the circuit judge, District 2, Division 4. It's a position that the best word I can use to describe it is I love. It is the best job I've ever had. It is the most fulfilling and rewarding job I've ever had. Going into my background and, like we discussed prior to going on, I'm a talker. So, we can talk as long as you've got time to record.
Okay. You're married here locally, got kids. Tell us a little bit about your family dynamic.
So I'm married to Brittany, who is a saint, for the best word you can describe her. I'm fortunate and lucky to have her by my side. We celebrate our 8-year anniversary next month. And you always dream and think about and hope that you just get a woman who stands beside you for everything. And I couldn't be more blessed.
I understand how that is. I'm blessed by one myself.
And it's what makes us.
Oh, yeah.
We are a blended family. She has 2 lovely daughters. I have 2 daughters from that. We don't use the term step at our house.
Yeah.
They're all my daughters. One's about to graduate high school. The other one's going into high school. And then I have 2 daughters from my prior marriages. One is in the 4th grade and one is about to graduate as well. All girls. And,
that makes you uniquely qualified for a judge right there.
Well,
4 girls.
I was a single child. I didn't have any siblings. And, then all these girls are in the house. And, I thought boys would be bad. Yeah. The girls, handful.
Yep. Yeah. And in all the stages.
So there's always some drama going on.
Yeah. Always. And you got to decipher through it and learn.
I've gotten very good at tuning out selective hearing.
Yeah.
When they're coming in from school, just, so-and-so did this, or did you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
But my parents still live here. My mom is retired, and my dad has a manufacturing company in town. He's built it. If I had one person that I had to have as a role model, it would be my father. He is one of the most intelligent business decision people that I've ever met. He's just got street smarts, and he has taught me, and he is still a firm believer. Even though it's funny, being an attorney, we deal in contracts, and it's better being writing. He still, to this day, will rely and hold you to a handshake.
Nice.
And there's something to be said about that, because you don't see that too often these days.
Yeah, I remember when that mattered.
It used to.
Yeah.
Now you better have it in writing.
That's right. Unfortunately.
And that's odd coming from a judge. But he would be my role model. He's built his company from the ground up, and he's done wonderful things. And still to this day he works. Kind of don't want him to retire, because in my family, you retire, you don't stay alive very much longer.
Yeah. Well, get a big hobby if he does. So.
Well, his hobby come November is going to be putting up yard signs and signs again. He's very good at that.
There you go. Let's talk about just one topic. We all have them in our lives that we may or may not be proud of. Those that are in the public eye. I was involved in something similar about 10 years ago, and I was in a divorce, and the divorce took 2 years to get through, and it was rough. And the things that were said were, far from the truth. But regardless, it was a black eye on me, and some of it was deserving and some of it was not. I kind of told people, yep, I made a mistake. I repented for it. I'm not proud of it. And it's put me in a better position in my life. God tells us the trials that we have are for our own good. And we can look at trials and we can say, well, that sucks, and we can dig a hole, or we could use it to better ourselves. We could use it to improve ourselves. You kind of went through something not too long ago that was in the public eye, and you and I talked off camera, and I just want to give you an opportunity. If there's anything you think you might want to say and talk about it, this may be your first public time to ever even say anything about it. But if there's anything that maybe you just wanted to address, or the concerns of others that may be on the fence of whether or not Doug's their guy, here's your opportunity to just kind of talk about it a little bit.
Last year was a very, very rough year. You're right, it has been in the public eye.
Yeah.
The night of May 3rd, the incident, that occurred at my house, a very unfortunate night, very unfortunate incident. My family and I are still putting pieces back together.
Yeah.
And dealing with stuff from the night and just what was portrayed through the media.
Right.
I really haven't talked about it. It's a very, very sensitive subject.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I get it. I've been there.
I could talk forever about it, but that incident made me stop watching the news.
Yeah.
Because I was portrayed to be somebody that I'm not. And I'm not downplaying that something didn't happen. I'm very ashamed of things I said that night. But some of the stuff that was put out there, it cast me as this person that I'm not.
Right.
And my wife and I and our family have tried to just keep our core, keep people that know us and love us around us. People are free to make their own decisions. That's not for me to decide. But I will say this: that incident has made me a better judge. As a judge, we're supposed to have the facts that are presented to us to make a decision, not what we heard from somebody down the street or what we read on Facebook or read in the news that's just peppered with, hearsay or anything of that sort. We hear the facts and make a decision based on those facts. And I've really taken that to heart. I guess I'll just end with, I'm not the person that I was portrayed to be. Do I have flaws? Every one of us has flaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
And am I sad about that night? I'm very sad. And it was an unfortunate night and an unfortunate event, and we're still healing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. You and I have talked about it a little bit off camera. As you said, there's one perfect person that ever walked the earth, and it's not you and me. Mm-hmm. And we can learn from our mistakes and pick up the pieces and move on. I do find it pretty cool that you said that it helped you be a judge, because based off of hearsay versus the facts, and you hope in a court case that's what judges rule on.
That's what we're supposed to rule on.
Yeah, absolutely. So appreciate you sharing that with us. Yeah,
I have a pocket cross.
Yeah,
and I keep it in my pocket while I'm on the bench. And there's sometimes I have to make a tough decision.
Yeah,
and I'll even sometimes go back in chambers and just, Lord, just guide me.
Yeah.
Because there are tough decisions I have to make.
Oh, yeah.
And the toughest struggle is I feel pulled to make a decision based off my heart, but I can't do that. I have to make a decision based on the law.
Yeah.
And that has been the toughest struggle.
Yeah, I bet. Well, and sometimes, you know what, that person's going through something. This is probably the time that's going to change their life.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to do something or make a decision that impedes that progress. Like, we don't want anybody to go to jail that doesn't deserve to go to jail. That's a daunting, weighing task on an individual.
I am from Jonesboro, born and raised. My family, my dad was born in Wynn. His family moved to Jonesboro.
Okay.
Growing up, people ask, you're from Jonesboro. Where'd you live? I've lived all over Jonesboro.
Right.
My mom's period of time, she sold real estate. So I don't have a traditional home that I grew up in. About every 2 years, buy and sell a house. So, there's not just that one home that I can say, oh, that was my childhood home.
The true real estate mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it frustrated my dad. We all hate moving. I despise moving. So, I've lived just about all over Jonesboro. My mom is from Blyville. Her extended family was. My mom graduated high school from Blyville, moved to Jonesboro. Sorry, Mom, I don't recall that exact year. My aunt worked at the base in Blyville and then transitioned to Jonesboro when the base closed down.
Great.
So, my family is kind of from all over the region. Extended family, Little Rock, Memphis, but we're centralized here. And then some of my closer extended family live in the Brooklyn area and have for many, many years. But I say that to say the only time I've been away from Jonesboro is 4 years of undergrad at Fayetteville. I'm a Razorback, although I would come back during the summers and take my Spanish at ASU because
right.
It's a little easier. And then I went to law school in Montgomery, Alabama. A little private law school down there. The way I got into law and got into being a judge is a little unique, I guess. I'm the first in my family, entire family, to go to college, let alone get a professional degree.
Right.
My mom, at one point when I was in grade school, did get an associate's in bookkeeping or accounting. My dad went to college for, I think, about a semester. Realized it wasn't for him and went to the Army. I say that because it kind of transitions into law.
Right.
So went to Fayetteville, computer engineering. I was super into tech. About a year into it, I called my mom one day and I said, Mom, I cannot do this. If this is the community and the people I have to socialize with every day, I can't make it because I'm a social person.
Right.
She said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. Called one of my friends. I said, what do you do? He said, well, I'm in criminal justice. I said, all right. He goes, you'll love it. Tried it, took the intro to criminal justice class, and I fell in love with it. But still at that time, I didn't know I wanted to be a lawyer. So about to graduate, I'm looking, what can I do with a criminal justice degree? Well, not much, unless you want to get in law enforcement or something of that sort. So talked with the family, decided to take the LSAT, got a good score. However, once again, like I said, I was the first to go to college, professional, all that. I didn't know how early you had to apply to law school.
Right.
So I got waitlisted. And I kind of shot myself in the foot because I only applied to Fayetteville. So anyway, this little private law school in Montgomery, Alabama reached out and said, we've seen your scores, we've seen your grades. Come down and give us a tour. I did. Fell in love with it. I had the absolute best professors. And I like to kind of tease people that, our mock trial team beat Harvard's mock trial team.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, I got a great education. I say that to say, my dad, I don't want to say he pushed me into law, but when he was in the Army, he was in Vietnam, and he got lucky. He didn't get deployed overseas. he got sent to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And he likes to say he was a paralegal. Sorry, Dad, but I don't even think he can spell paralegal. But he worked for the JAG office, and the stories he tells about, he loved it.
Right.
So he kind of pushed that onto me. You'll be a great attorney. You're very social. You're smart. So I graduated law school, and Jonesboro is home.
Right.
So I knew I was moving back. So I did. And at that time, it was right after the '08 recession. There were no jobs.
Right.
I put out a resume to every single firm around, and there were no jobs. So with the help of my parents, I took the leap of faith and put up a shingle. And I had a little cubicle, not much money in my pocket, and a phone that needed a ring. So I went from a little cubicle to 14 years later, my office ended on Main Street, and had a very successful office. I loved my job, but I knew there was more. And that started probably about 3 or 4 years into practicing law. So been practicing prior to me taking the bench January of this year. I've been practicing law 14 years. In those 14 years, when I first started, being by yourself, you're waiting for the phone to ring.
Right.
I took anything and everything. Then it started to transition, getting to where I knew I wanted to be a judge. And then I'll go back into my background. I knew there was more when I was in court one day. And there was a 18, 19-year-old woman who had stolen a tube of lipstick from Walmart. Now, I'm not saying she did right or anything. She had no prior criminal history. The tube of lipstick was $3.25. She'd either given it back or paid restitution, whatever it was. And she goes up, pleads guilty to it. And her statement to the court was just, Your Honor, there's nothing you can do that is worse than what's already been done. She mentioned that her father was a Baptist preacher. He was actually sitting in the back and kind of nodding, kind of
Right.
agreeing with her statement. And the court said, "Thank you, ma'am. 3 days jail." Over a $3.25 tube. Now, I'm not saying stealing is right,
Right.
but sometimes the punishment has to fit the crime.
Right.
So at that point, I said, something's got to change. Well, then it was just a snowball from there. I just kept getting, this feeling that I was being called to be a judge. As an attorney, no attorney likes to lose a case.
Right.
And I'm very competitive. So there are cases that I had won that I shouldn't have won, but there are cases that I lost that I felt strongly I should have won. And I just kept getting this calling. So then at this time, we're probably 2018, 2019, before COVID, Judge Bowling and Fowler were our district court judges. And the laws changed now. But back then, if they were sick or had a vacation or needed a substitute, they could petition and an attorney could fill in that day as a special judge. I did that a handful of times, and that I already had the calling.
Right.
That was hook, line, sinker. I said, this is what I'm meant to do. When I made the announcement that I was running for judge last election, I had attorneys call me telling me not to, that I was doing a disservice to the public because I was good at my job, and the art of a solo practitioner or a solo law firm is dying. And I say that because over the years, I tried to hire several attorneys to come and join as associates out of law school. If you look around and look at the legal landscape, you don't see a ton of younger attorneys coming to Northeast Arkansas.
Right.
They want to go to Little Rock, Fayetteville, big firms. There was just nothing that appealed to them, even though I felt I was very comparable salary-wise.
Right.
So I don't know what the reason is, but when you look around, the attorney and the solo firms are kind of dying out. So I had several attorneys call when I announced, kind of upset with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I say all that when I started getting the calling to pursue being a judge and going back to my practice, when I first started, I took anything that walked in the door. Then I started taking that, I always knew I had a passion for family law, being divorced myself, fighting and sitting in court over my own daughter. It's one thing I always told clients that came in. I'm probably the only attorney in town that knows the emotions you're going through right now because I've sat in your spot. I've sat on that witness stand. It is terrible.
Right.
It
right.
is one of the most emotional feelings. It's just hard to describe the stress and anxiety and just the emotional toll it takes on you. So I tell them, I know exactly what you're feeling, and it is a terrible feeling, but I'm here to help you get through that.
Right.
So when I knew that I had this calling, I wanted to be a judge, I don't want to say I changed my practice, but at the time, I kind of only limited my law firm to taking domestic, so divorces, custody actions. I'd been doing part-time parent counsel for DHS, which I thoroughly enjoyed. However, it didn't pay the greatest. I did it because I liked it.
Right.
And I truly felt that I was helping a population that needed some of the best help they could get. I mean, when you've got people in especially DHS court, I mean, they've had their kids taken away by the state. There's not many more worse feelings in the world, and they feel helpless and alone.
Right.
So I had a passion for helping those people. I say that to say when I knew, hey, I'm going to run for judge one day, Keith Cressman had just been appointed as the prosecutor to replace Ellington when he took the bench. Keith called me up one day and he said, I've heard you have some interest in being a prosecutor. I said, well, yes, sir. But I still have my law firm. He goes, well, would you like felony part-time? And I had already had friends that were felony prosecutors. I knew the part-time felony prosecutor might save part-time. It's more full-time. I said, well, Keith, I can't do that because I still have my law practice that pays my bills. And he said, well, what about district court? What about Craighead County? And, I'd been in that court all the time. I said, yeah, misdemeanor? Yeah. So, I would love to do that. So I did that for almost, I think, 4 years. I did that because I was also helping people and the community. But I also knew, because I had done criminal defense,
Right.
I didn't advertise for criminal defense, but I had a pretty substantial criminal defense practice at one time. But I knew that, in being a judge, you kind of need to have a full picture of every area of law. I tease now when they ask me and they say, what's it like being a judge? Well, the first month or two, overwhelming. My dad, he's got my docket.
Right.
He knows if I'm going to be in Marion or Paragould or Blytheville or Jonesboro. He likes to keep up. And sometimes he likes to come watch because he watches all those shows on TV.
Well, he gets a kick of his son being up there. So, yeah,
but I say that because, for instance, today, I was supposed to be in court every day this week. Got a call, today's case settled. Supposed to start a 2-day jury trial tomorrow. Got a call last night, it's settled. So that's good because I have office days, but people don't realize how much administrative work is on the back end. So my dad, I say, he would call and he'd say, what are you doing? You're not in court today? Well, I'm at the office. I'm drafting an opinion. Well, I thought judges just went to the bench and if they didn't have court, they just had free time. But that's what he saw on TV and that's what he was accustomed to.
Right.
So I say that to say, just the calling and the urge and to say that it is the most fulfilling job, A, I've ever had, B, I think I could ever have. Last time my campaign was, I want to be fair. Also, win, lose, or draw. There can't be two winners when you come before the court.
Right.
I mean, If both parties feel like they lose, that's a good job then, because neither party got exactly what they wanted.
Right.
But I want people to understand, if you're on the losing side of the court's decision, I want people to walk out of court and say, you know what? I didn't get what I wanted, but he was fair. And I understand where he's coming from.
Right. And that's tough these days. I mean, it's to me, sometimes you go into court depending on what it is, and there's preconceived notions based upon experiences in the past. And I think that you saying what you've said is trying to break those norms, I would assume. Because for years it was, the ruling was whatever was customary before. Divorce cases is one of those. They're trying to change that a little bit in the state, and I don't know how successful they're getting. But
so there still is this preconceived notion, and back, our law changed. The statute came down where, in initial custody determinations, so whether it's a divorce, a paternity action, the presumption is joint custody, and you have to rebut that presumption. So even though that's our law, you still have people that think, well, so-and-so's going through a divorce, the wife's going to get the kid.
Right.
And that's how it's been ever since the laws came down, but it hasn't translated really out into the public. I mean, in the legal field, people know what the
Right.
presumption is.
Right.
But there's still a mindset of, mom's getting the kid.
Right.
So I say all that to going back to when I first took the bench. And I wanted a full area of basically all the areas of the law so that I could be a well-informed and well-rounded judge. It helps. But people ask about, especially the first month or two, Doug, how is it, being judge? It's like being in law school again. An attorney that says they know everything, or a judge that says they know every area of the law, they're lying to you.
Right.
Because there are a lot of times there's always some new issue or factual pattern or something, and you got to go back and you've got to research.
Yeah.
Because laws are always changing, and it might not be something that I'm as familiar with as I am some other areas. So there is a lot of research that still goes on with being a judge.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, like what does Monday look like for Doug? What is, as being a judge, what does it entail? How big of a district or zone or whatever it is? And what's the difference maybe between circuit and local?
Okay, so we'll break those up in different parts. We'll start with the easier one. What's the difference between circuit and local? So circuit is, I'm a circuit judge. We don't call it local, we call it district court judge.
Right.
So you got Judge Bowling and Judge Fowler for Craighead County. District court hears all the misdemeanors, small claims, and civil claims. Civil claims, they can hear up to $25,000. It helps because it helps relieve some of the caseload from the circuit court. They are also granted some powers to hear some circuit court matters on an emergency basis. Judge Bowling and Judge Fowler also do 8.1 hearings, which are setting bonds on felonies. So they help out the circuit court a whole lot, but they are exclusive to misdemeanors, small claims, and civil cases under $25,000. And they're just Craighead County.
Right.
They travel Jonesboro, Lake City, Jonesboro, Lake City. On the circuit court side, we handle all felonies. We handle all juvenile matters. We handle probate, estate, divorce, custody, civil matters. Basically, every case you can think of falls within the purview of the circuit court.
And how big is the circuit court?
So the second judicial district, which is the circuit that we are in, is one of the biggest in Arkansas. Clay, Craighead, Greene, Mississippi, Poinsett, Crittenden counties. Have a little joke about that. Last election, woman I went to law school with, she was running for circuit judge in Alabama, where I went to law school. And she calls me up one day. She had seen on Facebook that I was out campaigning and just running ragged. And she said, "Oh, I'm exhausted. I put out signs all weekend." I said, "You did?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how big's your district?" She said something, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't recall the numbers, something like 400 square miles. I said, "It's not bad. I think ours is around 2,300 square miles."
Right.
And she goes, "Holy cow, how
Yeah.
do you do that?" I said, "A lot of traveling."
How many different places do you go? I mean, how many courts?
So we have 6 counties. Some counties have 2 courthouses,
Okay.
so 2 districts. I think last I checked, there are 8 basically court. I won't say 8 courtrooms, but 8 places to have courts.
Okay.
You know, Jonesboro, we just got the new annex, which is amazing.
Right.
And that helps out so much. But there are a possibility of 8 different places to go to have court. Now, do I go to all those? Maybe, but not necessarily. People think because my office is in Jonesboro that all my court is in Jonesboro. As a circuit judge, we travel the district. Every judge travels. Now, some judges travel more than others. We have an administrative plan that we vote on, and it divvies up kind of our caseloads. Now, we have to average approximately the same amount of cases. And don't quote me on this, it's somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 cases on each judge's docket. I guess you could say, it's not my specialty, but my part of the plan is out of all 6 counties, I have 22% of every divorce, custody, probate, estate, we call them DRPR, domestic relations and probate. Out of every domestic relations probate case that is filed, I get 22%. And then I have a third of the docket, the civil docket in Crittenden County, and half of the civil docket in Poinsett County.
You say administration, I mean, just keeping up with the schedule probably takes a little bit of administration. So
it takes a lot.
So what do you feel like specifically makes you right for this position?
Well, I'll tell you some things that I've done prior to me taking the bench and in my last campaign. I've experienced life. Like we were talking earlier, I've been in those spots and sat in court and testified in my divorce. I know the emotional toll it takes on people. There's a decorum in court. We're all professional. We have a job to do. And I don't want to say there should be leeway, but a judge should, I don't want to say empathize or sympathize, but understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So prior to me taking the bench, I wanted to be the judge that when you came before me, you left my courtroom feeling heard and understanding my decision. And since I've been on the bench, that's exactly what I've done. Also, when I was running last time, I got a lot of comments about, well, what are you going to do with the caseload? What are you going to do with the docket? I will agree. 1,500, 2,000 cases per judge, it's a lot of cases.
Is that year, 2 years? Is that your whole term?
No, it's right now.
Now, you have that many currently, right?
I think right under 2,000. I don't know. We get reports each month where our cases are, how many we've disposed of, gotten rid of, how many have been filed, and the status.
Well, so that's amazing.
I believe the last report I saw was somewhere around 1,950 cases. So I say all that to say one thing that I've done is we call them clearance rates. One case in, one case being disposed of, you got a 100% clearance rate. My clearance rate right now is right at 125%. So that is helping take off some of the backlog to help out, you know.
Right.
I get paid to do my job and hear cases, to take the information presented to me, apply it to the law, and make a decision. With that, if I've got free time, let's say tomorrow, you know, told you just a second ago that I was supposed to have a 2-day jury trial starting tomorrow. Well, if something gets filed and they need an emergency hearing, courtroom's available today or tomorrow, I will hear it because that's what I get paid to do. Going back to what I was trying to get at is some attorneys have been kind of shocked when they will send my office a request for a trial date and turn around and we'll say, yeah, we can get you in 5 weeks in this courtroom. Whoa, what? No, we don't need it that quick. Because I know, especially when I was practicing, it was hard to get a court date.
Right.
You might file for a trial setting and it might be 6 months down the road. So I try to accommodate as best as I can, as best as our court schedule can. You know, if there's not a courtroom, well, we can't have court, you know, out on the front lawn.
Right.
But if there's an open courtroom, I have a free day. You need a setting. I'm going to work my best to accommodate that.
What have you seen in these? How long have you been now? 2 years? Almost.
No, January 1st
That's
of
right.
this year.
January 1st. How long in this since January 1st? What have you seen that maybe you didn't know was going to be part of your being a judge? So you talked about it a little bit. People go into a job, preconceived notions of what it's going to take and all of that good stuff. You probably said, you know, I kind of know what judges go through, but what has been like the surprise? What has been one of those things that you're just like, wow, I had no idea that this was going to be something that just was in this this job that A, one that you maybe love about it, and B, maybe that you don't like about it?
Well, I'll say this, there's nothing I do not like about my job. Just going back to, it is the most rewarding and fulfilling job I've ever had. But things that I did not expect, number one, I did not realize how much of the administration side there was.
Right.
The biggest thing, though, is when you're an attorney, and if, you know, you've been in court before, whatever it may be, you know, if the court does not decide the case that day, as we call it, from the bench, judge is sitting up there and makes the ruling, well, then the judge has to go back and draft their opinion. As an attorney, attorneys would get frustrated. And I'm just going to use numbers here. Let's say, you know, the case is heard 1st of this month. Okay, so let's say October 1st, the case is heard. There were some times as an attorney, you might not get an opinion 2 months, 3 months. It would start to get a little frustrating, especially as an attorney, because your clients would be calling saying, what's going on?
Right.
And, you know, you didn't want to bug the judge every week. Hey, where's our opinion? Where's our opinion? So I never understood that, but I do now, because when you're in court every day and you've got a almost 2,000 docket caseload, you got to make time to be able to write those opinions. So that, plus all the administrative stuff, you know, management of time is a whole lot tougher than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm kind of upset that my 2-day jury trial settled for tomorrow. But before I came here, I'm finishing up an opinion from last month, and I've got one more to write that I heard 3 weeks ago. So I'm trying to get those out as quick as possible. So selfishly, I'm kind of excited that jury trial settled, so I can get those opinions out this week.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting to know, and that's probably good for the listeners to understand, because any of them that may have been in this situation, it's like, well, how hard can this be? Well, but if you've got 2,000 on a docket, and you may hear several in one day, and then you may have a trial that lasts a couple of days. I mean, it's almost impossible to get them out.
It is. It's very easy to issue a ruling from the bench, as we call it, if it's an hour hearing.
Right.
And it's something that comes before us all the time. We're up to date on all the statutes and laws. But when you have cases that last multiple days, or maybe you didn't finish in the time allotted and then you've got to go back to court a month later, well, I want to be thorough and make sure that I haven't missed anything. So I go pull all my notes, transcripts. Sometimes I'll listen to the trial again just to see if there was anything I missed, because I want to get it right.
Politics. Judges don't talk about politics. Why is that?
Because as a judge, we are to remain neutral. If I were to, and there's judicial canons, we're not allowed.
Right.
Quite frankly, that's it.
Right.
We can tell you about ourselves, but we can't tell you how we'd rule on a case. We can't tell you our position on what this law means or does not mean, or, personal opinions on things. Because if we did, and let's say it was different than your opinion, and you came before me, well, you'd already have a preconceived notion. Oh, well, Judge Brimhall, he's, I've heard how he talked about this, and my case is the opposite of that, or, he saw me voting for so-and-so,
right.
He's going to rule against me. You should, when a participant, when a plaintiff, defendant, even a witness, minor child, whoever it is, comes before the court, they should feel that, hey, they are getting a fair shot.
Right.
And that judge, doesn't matter their personal opinion or anything, that judge is going to sit there, hear the evidence, and make a good faith determination based on the facts and law.
So that's got to play a little bit into personal life as well, because, I'm friends with a couple of the judges, and I'll ask them a question, and they always have this, depending on what the question is, obviously, but they always have this roundabout answer. And it's like, I'm not going to tell you. So how often do you get that? Because it's got to be, especially, the more recent you were in it with friends and things like that, they got to be asking you questions about certain things.
So campaigning, when I was campaigning last time, right before the presidential election, the number one question I would get when people would come up and meet me, who you voting for?
Right.
Which one?
Right.
I can't tell you. I'm sorry. Why should it matter? So my friends already know, we're not going to talk politics. We're not going to talk issues or anything. But when you're out campaigning, when I'm meeting people of our district, as a judge, we have to say, well, I know that's very important to you. I wish I could give you an answer, but unfortunately I cannot, and the judicial canons prevent me from that.
Talk a little bit about your family dynamics. Your mom's Blytheville, dad Wynn, you're Jonesboro. You don't go down as far as Wynn, but you do cover pretty close. Harrisburg, y'all cover Harrisburg. Does that play any role into maybe how you feel about being unique for this position? Blytheville's different from Jonesboro. Clay County, all of Clay County is different maybe from any other part of Northeast Arkansas. Is there any sort of your life experiences, parents, things like that that you believe that's really kind of honed you in on being a good circuit court judge?
So with each county is different. You want to talk about Arkansas and California, huge difference between those two states, right? Yeah. But you can break it down by county almost. There's not really any huge differences. One thing I have noticed is the resources available. And I meant to bring this up last when we were talking about difficulties or things. One thing that I am looking into is mental health resources. They're needed. I'm seeing a ton of cases where mental health is at the core of the issue. Well, it's all fine and dandy if people have good insurance or they're very wealthy, but when they don't have good insurance and they're not very wealthy, we need to make sure that they get the mental health treatment that they deserve. So I'm talking to a couple people right now to see, if it's a DHS case and the state comes in and takes, parents' kids, there are resources available
right
through the department, through the state. But when you're talking about a private case or, a divorce or a custody issue, those resources aren't always readily available. So I'm looking into how and what programs are out there to help people that need mental health treatment that may not be able to afford it or don't qualify, to help them get the right result that they can get.
Gotcha. Is there anything about Doug that you want the people to know? Here's your time to kind of guess whatever your slogans are, whatever your thing is. Is there something about Doug that you just want the people to know about?
My life experiences are a lot. They've made me the man who I am today. They give me a sense of where others come from. We're all different.
Yeah.
And we all have life experiences. Some are public, some are not. But there's no perfect person. There was.
Well.
So I am around it, and I recognize issues in everyday life. And I think everything that I've gone through personally and that I've seen people going through, I think it makes my ability to make decisions better.
Awesome. Well, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. This is why we do what we do. We bring issues, we bring candidates to you so that you can make an informed decision based upon the information given. So I suggest that you stay in tune to this race and other races and make your decision based upon the things that you hear, the things that you know. Try to be as factual as possible. Don't go off of hearsay or any of that good stuff, but do go out and vote. So you get elected when?
March 3rd is the election.
Okay, so that's different. Primaries in March, and as far as I know, the judges are the only ones that actually will be elected in March. Is that correct?
Unless there's a runoff.
Okay.
If there's a runoff, then we go to November.
So, but you don't take the bench again till 2027 for this election.
If I win the re-election, I would just roll into a January 1st of 2027.
Gotcha. So this March is important, not only for primaries, but for judges, and judges are incredibly important. So
may I make a comment on that?
Absolutely.
So I can't stress this enough. Get out and vote. I would appreciate and love your vote, but that is your right to vote. And not enough people exercise their right to vote.
Yeah.
And you're talking about things being shocking. The numbers at the last election, I look at the population and the registered voters, and I looked at it and I said, that's all that voted?
Absolutely. It's
because
crazy.
People don't exercise their right to vote.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he is absolutely right. Craig County needs to go to voting. Clay County now who votes? We almost closed this out, but who votes for you?
Well, what do you mean who votes?
So does your whole circuit get to vote?
Any registered voter in any of the 6 counties,
get a vote.
I would appreciate your vote very much.
So it's not a Craighead thing. It's not a Jonesboro thing. You just heard that this is an NEA thing, and anybody within those areas get out to vote. Some are way better than other counties at voting, but it is important to get out and vote. So go do that. Doug, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
It was an enjoyment to get to know you better. Guys, appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.